Well, tonight we continue remembering the life of times of Jessie Duarte. Earlier on at her funeral, many speaking about her commitment, especially to struggles of the oppressed in different parts of the world. We're joined now by Africa for Palestine's Mohammed Desai in studio. Mohammed, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. It was, really interesting that a lot of the speakers highlighted the fact that Jessie Duarte had always participated in the struggles of the oppressed, not just in South Africa, but in different parts of the world where she felt that there was injustice taking place and she needed to be part of that activism.
She was explosive. She would send shivers down the spines of oppressors. I think that when she spoke, there were two elements to her. When she would unpack the embargo against Cuba, when she would detail Israel's apartheid policies against the Palestinian people, or the situation in Western Sahara, camps in which she spent time living in, there was a beautiful combination of, on the one hand, detailed information where she was able to unpack and give you the real intricate information. But at the same time, one always had the impression and one always was assured that Comrade Jessie, when she stood on issues of internationalism and international solidarity, it was driven and motivated by a deep reservoir of love. She really extended a love to all oppressed peoples across the globe. And I think that for us in the Solidarity movement, we greatly appreciate the kind of engagements, the kind of involvement that we had with Comrade Jessie in advancing the struggles of the people of Palestine, Cuba, Western Sahara, and elsewhere. But at the same time, we also will remember, and I think that we are richer for the fact that it was never instructive. It was always empowering, these engagements with her.
When she talks about the introduction of the Group Areas Act in South Africa and the kind of impact that had on her as a child, it's with very vivid and clear memory. And it seems that it's the pain and the resonance that she carried throughout her work, the power of understanding what violence, what oppression does to communities, to families. And that's part of the reason why she was also just so vocal on issues of women too.
I think that the various issues that she stood for touched her very deeply. And the one thing about Comrade Jessie is that once she adopted a position in support of any progressive struggle, that of gender equality, that of non-racialism, that of international solidarity, she was going to be in your corner until victory had come for that issue. And I think that this, for many of us younger activists, well, I was younger back then, but for many of us younger activists, this was inspiring to be with a leader that had no doubt of the success of the various struggles that we were waging. And I think that another element of Comrade Jessie that we really are appreciative of is the fact that she always inserted non-sexism and non-racialism into her various positions, including on international solidarity. For example, she always insisted that the struggle of the people of Palestine should not be viewed within a religious realm. She insisted, for example, at various events to always include members of the South African Council of Churches and various other Christian bodies across the country, because she always felt that the Christian voice from within the Palestinian community needed better highlighting. And so Comrade Jessie was able to crisscross and was able to take a very large issue and bring it down to many of us in an easy to understand way. And she did this in a way that was always inclusive of various peoples along the way.
She was fierce, tough, certainly no walkover. Lots of incidents where we see a very powerful Jessie Duarte. What was it like, your first couple of encounters with her?
Scary. The first time that we were told about Comrade Jessie, this fighter, this stalwart, this no-nonsense sharpshooter person, walking into our office, it was intimidating. And within a few seconds, you let go of all your guards, and you are completely in her presence. She takes you into confidence. She'd take a young activist, an older activist, and engage with them with the same kind of maturity and the same kind of respect. And I think that the Israeli lobby in South Africa, shamefully and I think regrettably, viciously attacked her on various occasions on social media by issuing statements. But there was also a wonderful resilience to Comrade Jessie that at some point when we had asked her, look, can we organize a protest in support of her position, but also the position of the African National Congress, I think we must be clear that Comrade Jessie never vied away from never steered away from the positions of her party. She always advanced the various struggles that she participated in, coming from the background of the African National Congress. And so when these attacks came on her, she at some point she said, oh, to hell with that, you know. I expect it, and that's fine. They can bark, but we have work to do. Let us talk about programs. Let us talk about campaigns. Let us talk about activities. And Kathy, I mean, you know, some politicians would speak out in support of certain issues for the limelight and maybe for the cameras. But Comrade Jessie would both represent us at a national level and at the same time always make space for community events, whether it was in Nuclear, whether it was in Mafeking, and in various other communities across the country.
And the communities that you've mentioned now, communities also that she's got relatives in, she's got deep roots in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that that Comrade Jessie always recognized that whilst you are building a national movement, you always remain committed to community involvement. And this comes, as you had indicated earlier, because of the history of forced removals in our country, the kind of racism that she and her family were subjected to. I think that she carried that thread through, and she never forgot the people that made her, the people that supported her, and the people that she came from.
Some have also spoken about her as being quite a disciplinarian, somebody who is able to call people out, put people in their place. We just heard from the SACP's Solima Paela giving us a couple of examples. Do you have any young activists with wild and different ideas? What were some of the difficult moments?
No, in our case, we appreciated that disciplinarian nature of her because we always knew that she was going to stick it to the Israeli regime when they needed it. She was going to call out the U.S. When they were out of order. And so for us, it was also, it didn't come from a place of maliciousness. It came from a place of magnanimity. It came from a place of Comrade Jessie having a backbone. Comrade Jessie standing by her principles and not shying away because of the attacks that may come or for political expediency. Comrade Jessie stood very steadfastly on her commitments to non-racialism, non-sexism, and a massive contribution to international solidarity in our country.
What would you say you learned the most from her?
I think the combination of always being driven by both the facts on the one hand, but love on the other.
I imagine a lot of lessons also in organizing, because it seemed to be something that came naturally to her, especially at this point in her life, given the history and the decades over which she's had to do it.
I won't embarrass the comrades, but we had once arranged an event in Limpopo, and it was scheduled for 2 o'clock, and at that stage there were 12 people in the room, and we were expecting 120 people. Comrade Jessie had arrived, and we explained very embarrassingly so that, look, I mean, there's only half a dozen people here. And nothing fazed her. Comrade Jessie was like, okay, so what's the problem? Let's go engage with the 12 comrades. Let us have a successful workshop. And so for her, it wasn't only about the spotlight, it wasn't only about the superstar moments, it was about, as you say, the organizing part of things. I think that she saw the larger picture, but at the same time, she always appreciated the smaller elements that were necessary.
Mohammed Desai, really condolences to you and your organization on this loss. It sounds like it's going to be a big one for you to try and recover from.
we're going to persevere in her spirit.
All right, let's leave it there for tonight. Mohammed Desai, Director for Africa for Palestine, one of the organizations that Jessie Duarte worked closely with and supported during her life.